Hey folks, good morning. Well, look what we have here today. Yamaha Motors 2023 MT-10 SP. This is the tip of the spear in Yamaha Motors 2023 MT Series naked bike lineup. And we're gonna take it for a spin today. All right, folks, there it is. Yamaha Motors 2023 MT-10 SP. This is Yamaha Motors top of the range MT generation naked bike for 2023. It was introduced last model year for 2022. It's based off Yamaha's new and improved 2022 MT-10. That's a leader class naked bike. Yamaha Motors done a host of modifications to this vehicle for 2022, which we've covered in our multitude of MT-10 review videos and articles that live on motorcyclistonline.com. This content is going to revolve specifically around this MT-10 SP. Now, this vehicle differs from the base model with the use of these Öhlins Gen 2 spool valve fork and shock. This suspension is boss. Words can only barely do justice with how good this motorcycle rides, which we'll get to in a little bit. We also have this color matched lower fairing, stainless steel brake line on the front, blacked out brake and clutch levers, and master cylinder reservoir and handlebar. And we have this nice polished aluminum swing arm. These wheels are cast alloy. They're not the cast magnesium wheels that Yamaha uses on its YZF-R1. Everything else is the same. The frame is the same. The engine's the same, aside from the use of steel connecting rods and a steel valve train in lieu of the more expensive high revving titanium bits. This is powered by Yamaha Motors 998cc CP4 inline 4 engine. This engine will go down in history as one of the finest internal combustion 4-cylinder engines that have ever been installed into a power sport vehicle. This engine's boss. It offers a unique character like nothing else in the motorcycle segment, which we will again address. Look at this thing. I love the new styling of this 2022 Plus MT-10. This thing is way sharper looking. The half bug eye, half transformer front end, those big ram air intakes, those stereo style airbox vents. These vents emit the induction roar and howl from the airbox, and they sound awesome when you're on the vehicle. We have that Brembo master cylinder, another improvement for 2022. Here is the dash. This is the same 4.2-inch dash as used on the YZF-R1. While we like that they have fitted a color TFT dash, it is a little small, and the tactile function of this button here is not so good, but we will talk about that in a minute. Look at this nice bespoke seat. I love this seat. It is so nice. Another cool styling touch, that Masters of Torque MT LED taillight. We really appreciate that Yamaha Motors paying attention to the styling details. This is a very aesthetically pleasing motorcycle, especially compared to the 2020 MT-10. That thing was kind of transformer-ish, but kind of goofy looking. This thing is much more cutting edge, and it's even better looking in the liquid metal Raven colorway, which is exclusive to this $17,200 MT-10 SP. That's right, $3,000 more expensive than a 2023 MT-10. Is it worth it? We're about to find out. All right, here we go, folks. A good old-fashioned mechanical key. This is the same type of key Yamaha Motor uses in the rest of its motorcycles. I love a good old-fashioned mechanical key. Ergonomics on this motorcycle. This motorcycle has a really nice ergonomics package. It is sporty, but not overly so. I like the handlebar. It has a real nice upright, aggressive bend without it being too aggressive. The handlebar itself is a little bit narrow, but I think it works well for this application. It has a nice rise right here. You can, of course, adjust the roll of it forward or back depending on your liking.
The foot pegs are tucked up a little bit high. So they're positioned a little bit high and they're a little bit aggressive. Now, the rider's rear sets are fixed. You can't adjust the position like you can on other bikes. It's strange because even Yamaha's Tracer 9 GT, you can adjust the foot peg position on that bike. And we know the YZF R1 doesn't offer that, which this frame is based off of, but it would still be nice if this vehicle integrated foot peg position adjustment for the rider. That said, it is fairly sporty and aggressive, but not overly so. We're 6 feet tall and the cockpit isn't too cramped for us. Let's pass this person. Now, this seat on this bike, I love this seat. It's nice and wide. It's very well supported. For a stock street bike seat, this seat is very comfortable. I also like the premium suede-like material that this MT-10 SP has. It's a little bit different than the production standard MT-10. It's a nice styling touch. Whoa, look at that guy, he's all low-rided out. It's a nice styling touch, and it's very comfortable when you're seated at the controls. Now, this 23 MT-10 SP is powered by a 998cc CP4 inline 4. It's water-cooled dual overhead cam with 16 valve cylinder head. This is the engine that Yamaha introduced as an all-new powertrain for the 2015 model year on its YZF R1 Superbike. Now, this engine is basically the same cross-plane crankshaft equipped engine as the R1, minus the titanium connecting rods and titanium valve train. Those components are made of steel instead. So a little bit heavier, reduces the RPM ceiling, and also saves on the cost factor. This engine still puts out a whopping amount of power, 140 ponies to the business end of the Bridgestone Batlax S22 rubber. YZF R1 puts out right around 160, so 20 more horsepower out of the YZF R1. Back when the R1 came out for the 2015 model year, it used to have this track ECU, they called it, where they literally gave you a different unlocked ECU for a small upcharge. And when we dyno tested that bike back then, that thing was good for 180 horsepower. So this 998cc CP4 engine has a lot of power built into it. So even though it only puts out right around 140 at the back tire, this thing's capable of a lot more. Now, the cool thing about these CP4 engines, Yamaha basically came out with the CP4 engine concept, I believe, with the 2009 YZF R1. So they've been manufacturing this cross-plane engine with this offset firing order for 14 years now. Isn't that crazy? 14 years of this engine. And it works really good. Basically, it gives you the cross between the torquey low-end feel of a V-twin engine and the high revving nature of a conventional inline 4. That was weird. Usually the school bus driver would have a stop sign out for that, but I guess not today. So it gives you the best of both worlds. So you have a lot of like torque and a nice engine growl and exhaust note of a V-twin, yet you still have that high RPM and high horsepower whale of an inline 4. It literally splits the difference between the two with a character all unique in itself. This engine configuration has its own unique character. So while the other Japanese i4s all sound the same, and then the V4s and V twins have a unique character, this CP4 i4 has a unique character as well. So if you are looking to stand out amongst the crowd and want something that sounds really cool, this CP4 engine is that. Now this vehicle continues to benefit from ride-by-wire throttle. Yamaha Motor was an early leader in the ride-by-wire throttle movement. I believe they first invented that technology with their Yamaha Wave Runner, I think in 2005. That was the first vehicle to actually use YCCT, Yamaha Chip Control Throttle. Then the next year in 2006, it fitted it on its YZF-R6. So 2006 was a big overhaul for that bike. And ever since, Yamaha has been using that ride-by-wire throttle. Well, fast forward to the 2023 MT-10. This vehicle now benefits from Yamaha's accelerator position sensor grip. This is a new throttle control mechanism that Yamaha debuted on its 2020 YZF-R1, and it was integrated into the 2022 the 2022 MT-10. And this APS-G is a big deal because it gives more intimate throttle response. So the previous throttle control system with Yamaha's D mode, that system worked good and you could adjust the combined response of the engine and throttle with the D mode selection, but this APS-G throttle really ups the ante and makes for a much more accurate feeling throttle. We are riding this bike in the PWR2 setting. So just like the YZF-R1, this MT-10 and MT-10 SP now offers 4 adjustable combined engine power and throttle response maps. PWR1 is the most aggressive, while PW4 is the least aggressive. And on the old R1 and non-APS-G equipped bikes, the PWR1 setting was always a little bit aggressive and herky-jerky for us. Not anymore. Now it's really good. I don't even know why we're in this PWR setup. We should be in 1, so let's move it into 1, which we can do using this button here in the switch gear. That's why this bike is so neat. You can actually adjust the engine, combined engine power and throttle, as well as traction control and other features of this motorcycle while you're riding on the fly. How neat is that? So in addition to the adjustable engine power and throttle response maps, we have adjustable traction control. We have slide control, which we have disabled. Slide control is a very interesting feature. Realistically, to really benefit from slide control, you have to literally be power drifting the motorcycle off corners. So if you're not power drifting the vehicle off corners during acceleration, you really don't need it. And for a street bike, if you're going to be power sliding the motorcycle off corners, you are riding so quickly for the street that it's almost silly / unapplicable. But still, it's neat that this bike has it, and it's a really great feature for all of you track riders. We also have lift control. It's really called wheelie control, but Yamaha Motor calls it lift control, and it helps keep that front wheel on the ground. Yes, some turns, and that's where this SP really stands out from the competition, and the base MT-10 is with this fantastic lean semi-active suspension. This suspension is literally bomb. 4.7 inches of travel front and back, and the damping is automatically adjusted in real time based on rider control input and vehicle dynamic. We have it in the A3 setting, which is the least aggressive setting, which gives a little bit less road support when you're on the brake, but God, the comfort factor of the suspension. This bike, it is insane how good this bike rolls over bumps. You have to remember, the frame on this motorcycle and the chassis on this motorcycle is race spec. Like the YZF R1 is a very sharp and rough handling bike on the street. It's very aggressive. But with the fitment of this Öhlins spool valve suspension, it literally goes from mild to wild with a push of a button. It's really quite amazing. Basically, that spool valve technology, it just makes for more responsive and suspension damping control. So the suspension can dampen the forces that it receives from the based on the rider control input or the terrain or the road surface more accurately. Of course, if you're riding this motorcycle at the racetrack, you can always select a more aggressive level and off you will be. We didn't have a chance to operate this vehicle at the road racing circuit this time. Sorry folks, I know a lot of folks want us to do that. We missed out, but hopefully next time we can do that. Now, power's put back to the 17-inch cast aluminum wheel with a 6-speed transmission and chain final drive. This vehicle is equipped with a electronic quick shifter, which makes for lightning fast upshifts and downshifts. Auto blip downshift, all you have to do is press down on the shift lever and it goes down into the below cog. I really like this. I really like auto blip downshifters. It just enhances vehicle stability during corner entry, and you don't have to use the clutch. I love it. Yeah! Woo! Whoa, sorry guys, I got carried away there. I got carried away. Let's put the cruise control on. Let's enable cruise control. Cruise control is now enabled. The speed's a little low. Cruise control can only be enabled in 4th gear and above. Kind of a bummer. I wish you could enable cruise control in any gear, but for whatever reason this vehicle only allows cruise control above 4th gear. This vehicle also has a speed limiter, so you can select a speed and the vehicle will not accelerate past that speed. That is a handy feature that was born in Europe, where there is a lot of speed cameras present. So the US bound MT-10 SP inherits that feature. Other electronic gizmos we have are electronic engine brake control. Basically what that does is the lower the setting, the more gas it allows to enter the engine during, the lower the setting, so the higher the number, 3, allows for less engine braking effect, and that basically adds fuel into the engine during deceleration, helps the engine freewheel, and reduces engine brake effect. While we're waiting here for the stop, we can enter the main menu, which you do by pressing down the scroll button. You hold that and you enter this menu just like that. And now we're in here, YRC setting. We can adjust all of the engine power, traction control, slide control, quick shift, lift control, 1, 2, 3. 1 is the least amount of wheelie intervention, 3 is the most. Engine brake control, 1 and 2. And ERS, which is the electronic suspension control. So very easy user interface. This user interface on this motorcycle is very intuitive and easy to use. The only gripe we have is that this color TFT is a tad small. It's 4.2 inches, while this display was cutting edge when it was unveiled 8 years ago on the 2015 YZF R1. Fast forward to 2023 and it's downright old and too small. This used to be the size of an iPhone 6. Well, no one really uses iPhone 6s anymore except me. I still like that size, but realistically this dash display needs to be bigger. We've talked about it too in many of our other Yamaha motor street bike editorial pieces, and the switchgear needs to be improved too. The tactile function of this menu scroll wheel is just, it needs to be tightened up. It's just too loosey-goosey feeling. I'd really like to see better tactile response of that control wheel and a bigger screen. Alright, we have the RPM limit set at 56. We can't go any faster. Right now our throttle is pinned to the stop, but our vehicle won't go any faster than that. Pretty cool technology. Even when you downshift, it will stay at that speed. That's pretty cool. I love when technology makes for a superior riding experience. That's the whole point of adding tech. You folks who use a lot of gizmos like me, you'll love this 12-volt power plug. I would put a USB style adapter so you can charge your USB gadgets. Now, this wouldn't be a Motorcyclist Magazine test without an evaluation of this vehicle after dark. And the LED headlamps on this motorcycle, they do a fantastic job of throwing light on the road. They don't benefit from cornering function. I wish this bike had cornering headlights. I think that would be a really nice addition to this motorcycle. It's got the IMU chip to power it, so cornering headlights would be nice, but still the headlights on this motorcycle work really well. I also like all of the LED halogen bulb lights that it uses. One caveat though is the blinkers, the turn signals, the stock on the turn signals, it just doesn't fit into the housing in the frame very well, and it can come loose. It's kind of a poor design. So that's one gripe I have with the LED lighting and the front turn signals specifically, is just the stocks have a tendency to come loose. It's just a really goofy design, so sometimes they'll be flopping around. God, I love the character of this engine. These grills atop the 4.5 gallon fuel tank, these grills are awesome. What they do is they allow the sound to emit from the airbox, so it adds to a much more, oh, I had the speed control on, let's turn it off. Yeah, it allows you to hear the raucousness of this 998cc engine much more viscerally in the cockpit. These things are awesome. It's crazy how much character this CP4 engine has. It's always had a lot of character, especially compared to its Japanese arch rivals, but then compared to the European brands, the character was good, but not quite at that level. Now with the inclusion of these air resonance speaker type devices atop the fuel tank, this bike sounds just as good as a Aprilia Tuono 1100, and that's saying a lot. Good job, Yamaha Motor. Woo! Love this thing. Maintenance wise on this vehicle, Yamaha prides itself with engineering motorcycles that can go the distance. After the initial 600-mile service, engine oil changes should be done every 4,000 miles. So 4,000 miles between engine oil changes, and an engine oil filter cartridge change every other oil change. So 8,000 miles between the oil cartridge. Air filter is suggested to be replaced every 24,000 miles, but in our experience those air filters get dirty way faster than that. We'd be changing it at least every 10,000 miles, if not sooner. Spark plugs are said to need to be replaced every 8,000 miles as well. And the valve inspection interval on this vehicle is 26,600 miles. Isn't that crazy? This vehicle can go 26,600 miles without having to check the valve clearances. Pretty neat. Pretty neat that these motorcycles are so high quality. They're built in Japan and they offer a 1-year manufacturer's warranty. The fit and finish on this MT-10 SP is excellent. This is a very bespoke looking motorcycle that will rival the Italian competition. It's put together as good, if not better, than any Italian bike. And it has premium components that are sick. Let's go left, guys. Last minute direction change. Love the clutch on this motorcycle. It's very responsive. Yet it's got some, whoa, yeah! It's got some weight to it. That was fun. God, this thing just eats. I love how this bike just eats. The rear view mirrors do a good job of showing off what's behind you. And this engine, there is some vibration present through the handlebar and foot pegs, but it's Yamaha prides itself in its ability to tune things and its relationship with acoustics and music, the Tuning Fork brand. So it's crazy because the engine vibration literally feels like it was tuned specifically to enhance the character of the ride. So yeah, you do feel some engine vibration, but it's the right kind of engine vibration and the kind that makes riding motorcycles so fun. So good job, Yamaha. We really appreciate that you're paying attention to the details for disconcerting riders who only want to ride the best. Very nice. Now, the one caveat about this MT-10 engine is that it drinks the fuel. This motorcycle is thirsty. We average right around 30 mpg out of this bike. 32, 33 if you're easy on the throttle, and 28 if you're really giving her the beans everywhere you go. And with the sort of smallish 4.5 gallon capacity fuel tank, you're going to be stopping to get fuel quite often on this bike. God, this thing is so cozy. Of course, not having a windscreen or a forward fairing kind of makes for a windy riding experience at freeway speeds, but actual comfort wise, between the ergonomics, the seat, and that marvelous Öhlins suspension, this thing rides excellently. Alright folks, we are going to log some miles and check in with you in a little bit. Alright folks, you didn't think I was going to let you off that easy. Now we're on the official Motorcyclist Magazine test course on the street. Let's switch up the suspension settings to show you the handling of this vehicle. YRC setting. Let's go here. Let's switch it to A1, the most aggressive setting. Let's leave engine brake in setting 1, and I'm sorry, brake control, we'll leave it in setting 2. We're going to talk about the brakes. Brake control 1 and 2. 1 is the least aggressive setting, so we're actually using a more aggressive ABS setting. Aggressive means the ABS will intervene earlier, but in setting 2, cornering lean sensitive ABS is actually enabled. So even though 1 is a less aggressive setting, it doesn't benefit from cornering ABS. Yamaha motor can't call it that, but that's what it is. So we're going to use the more conservative ABS programming that includes lean sensitive ABS, because lean sensitive ABS is just plain makes things safer, in our opinion at least. All right, folks. Now it's worth mentioning that this MT-10 SP gains 5 pounds over the base MT-10. 472 pounds is what this vehicle weighs with a full tank of gas. God, I love the handling of this bike. You'd be amazed how agile a 472 pound inline 4 can be. God, listen to that engine. Thing's just got bark. Yeah! Yamaha YZF power underneath us. Now, this bike is a little lazier off the corners. The rear drive sprocket lost a tooth with the 2022 MT-10, which reduces RPM at freeway speeds, but also makes it a little more sluggish off the line. I don't even want to say more sluggish, but the RPMs are a little bit lower at a comparable vehicle speed than the 2020 MT-10. But overall, it's a good change. I like when the engine isn't revving to the moon at freeway speeds. God, this thing handles great. Love how planted it is. These Batlax S22 tires from Bridgestone, they are the business. They maybe don't have as much road feel as Pirellis or Dunlops, but they just plain stick. And they have a very neutral profile in typical Bridgestone fashion. Love these tires. Yeah! It's awesome how you can give this thing the beans and the rear suspension just doesn't collapse. It stays up in the stroke very nicely. God, this thing handles great. Of course, spring preload changes are still made the old-fashioned way, with mechanical adjustment atop each fork leg and on the shock collar. You can also opt for non-semi-active, so fixed suspension damping, which is courtesy the M suspension damping modes. And that's what the chassis on this motorcycle does so well, is it skirts the fine line between sport bike, super bike handling, and everyday comfort. What was that? Swear to God, I saw a deer or something. It's always important when you're riding these high performance motorcycles or any motorcycle to make sure you are paying attention to the road in front of you and look as far ahead as possible. You never want to be staring down at the front fender or the front tire. You want to keep your eyes fixed ahead and look out for potential issues in front of you. That is a paramount tip. Of course, motorcycle safety is a fundamental ethos here at Motorcyclist Magazine, so we like to sprinkle in little tips when we can here and there. God, this thing rules. Whoa! It's like a katana guy. There's a melee guy. Old Aprilia Superbike or naked bike. All right, brakes on this motorcycle. This motorcycle employs a pair of Advix 4-piston radial mount calipers. They are augmented by a Brembo radial mount master cylinder. This master cylinder was a big improvement on the 2022 MT-10 versus its predecessor. It offers nice power and improved feel at the lever. It also has a wide range of adjustment. The rear master cylinder is also by Brembo, and the rear brake is very good. I like that this motorcycle has fixed ABS. I mean, I don't like that you can't manually disable it, but I understand it and I appreciate that it has ABS. I'm a big back brake guy, and sometimes I'll just use it. I'll stomp on it a little too much, and ABS just helps mitigate any lockup from either side of the wheel. Yes! Now, for some reason, the YZF R1 their brakes are pretty prone to fade. And while these brakes are essentially the same, the brakes are less prone to fade on this motorcycle. I don't really know why. Maybe Yamaha redesigned its ABS piping, but these bikes are relatively fade free. To be fair, we haven't done a track day on them, and a track day is really the test of whether brakes will fade or not, especially a track day during hot summer weather. Well, folks, that was a good rundown of the 2023 MT-10 SP. If you can't tell, I really like this bike. We're gonna log some more miles and then wrap this puppy up. Woo! Woo! This thing, as my buddy Aaron Colton says, shits and gets.
Well, folks, there it is, Yamaha Motors 2023 MT-10 SP. If you couldn't tell by today's ride, I really like this leader class naked bike. This thing is an absolute hoot to ride. It looks cool. It has premium components. I love that O-lean suspension. That O-lean suspension functions boss. Yamaha Motor and O-leans did a fantastic job with the vehicle testing and getting the settings right in this motorcycle. Is it worth the extra $3,000 upcharge? I think so. The suspension works that good. I like that painted and color matched lower fairing. That polished swing arm is always a boss move. And those black control levers and blacked out brake fluid reservoir cap are nice touches, as is this liquid metal Raven paint. Yamaha has really upped the game in the naked bike class. This motorcycle is very capable. It is very comfortable, and it has bespoke finish. This is a motorcycle that can absolutely go toe-to-toe with the best from Europe. Of course, it's not going to have that insane velocity as a V4 1100 Tuono or a Street Fighter V4. Those things make 180, 190 horsepower. They're significantly more powerful than this bike, but still, this motorcycle is very rideable. It is easy to put all of the 140 ponies that that bike offers to the tire. Well, folks, would I spend my $17,200 on this vehicle? Absolutely, I would. This bike is awesome. Yeah, it costs 3 times as much as an MT-03 or 2 times as much as an MT-07, but you get a lot of bike for your money, and this vehicle really does a good job of representing a motorcycle that offers super bike-like performance, yet a high level of comfort and practicability for us road riders. Well, folks, that wraps up today's review of Yamaha's 2023 MT-10 SP. As always, make sure to surf on over to motorcyclistonline.com. That's where all of our written content comes to life. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs it down if you didn't, because we love to hear from the naysayers. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for riding with us, and we'll see you in the next episode.